triangle, where this one is your V value, and these are the components of your V. No? Now, if you recall your SOHCAHTOA, guys, no? We realize that if we are going to get the value of sine, the sine of the angle theta, no? That is always the opposite over the hypotenuse, and the opposite side in this given illustration is Vy. Our adjacent side is V. So if this is our triangle, now again, if this is our triangle, the opposite side to the angle is Vy, the adjacent side is Vx, and this is the hypotenuse called V. So therefore, if I'm going to ask for the value of sine of theta, no, since according to SOHCAHTOA, it is opposite over hypotenuse, then that will be Vy over V. No? So if you are going to find its vertical component, no? Pao natin yung vertical component, which we will now call as Vy. No? That's the vertical component. Our Vy based on our equation above, based on this equation above. No? So Vy will be the product of the hypotenuse times the sine of theta. No? And if you are to get that value, how much is that value eventually? No? So that value will be 30 or 50 kilometers per hour times sine of 30 degrees. No? Okay, can somebody calculate the value of Vy, please?
25, sir.
That's 25, no? Then that's in kilometers per hour. No? So the vertical component is this value. So this end will be equivalent to 25. No? Now, what about the horizontal component? Now, let's have this horizontal component. No? Now, the horizontal component will be called as our Vx, no? Since it's velocity, so we call the value as Vx. Now, in terms of our cosine function, no? The cosine of theta, guys, no, is actually equivalent to Vx divided by V. No? If again, no, if our Vx is the adjacent side, this is our hypotenuse, then that will be Vx over V. No? And if we will try to solve for Vx, that will be equals to V cosine of theta. No? Are you following me, guys? Are you still with me? So this is our equation. We are simply using the trigon. No? So again, paano naging kuha? How did we get this? Similar to our sine. We multiply the denominator, guys. No? We multiply natin yung denominator V with the other side on the left. And therefore, ang numerator na lang ang mabilin. No? The numerator is equals to the product of these two. No? The same way with this one. No? We multiply the denominator with sine. No? And then therefore, we get Vy. No? So, in our actual expression, how then do we write this value? So, this is equals to 50. No? Cosine of 30 degrees. And that's how much?
43.30, sir.
Our value will be
43.3, sir.
so 43.3 kilometers per hour. Again, that is in terms of the components of our forces. Okay, intindihan niyo? So this one is the value of Vx. This one is the value of V sub y. So again, if we'll try to write our V sub x, this is equal to 43 KPH na lang ako ni butang para nubo, no? And then our VY at the top, no? Ang atong VY karon amo ni ang 25, no? Now, how sure are we that these two values are really correct, no? Now again, if you'll apply your Pythagorean theorem, guys, no? Try to square 25. Square mong 25, square mo man niyo. Square 43.3, square 25, add, and then square root. You'll get 50. No? So basically, these are the missing parts of your triangle lang. No? All we did is to find these values. No? Does that make sense, guys? So kung i-check nyo niyo, the square of this 2 and sum and getting the square root gives you still 50. No? So the point is, this is how we get the components. No? So we use sine for Vy while we use cosine for Vx or the x component. No? Okay, so question pa. Okay, so we are going to try, no? So amo na ning iyang explanation dio. You can review the slides here, no? And you'll notice that there is the x component, no? This is how they get the x component in here, no? Let me erase this. So in finding the x component, no? We always multiply it with the cosine function, no? So the magnitude of the vector times the cosine of the function, no? The vertical, so vertical is always in terms of y, no? So the magnitude of a times the sine of a, no? So muna magkuha kita sang vertical and horizontal exponent, no? Okay, we will try an example, and for this one, no? Try kita sa example there. No? So I think there's a number here like this one, no? So let's say we will resolve this, no? Using our component method, no? So there are three. I'll erase this one below, so erase ko na, ha? So I will just write a summary there, no? So we are given three vectors here, no? Tatlo ka vectors. What are our vectors? A, no? Vector A is 30 units. And it goes at what angle? 30 degrees, no? Ang 30 degrees na, guys, it's the same as north of east, no? Next, B, no? B is 20 units at 120 degrees. And lastly, C, no? Which is 10 at an angle 225 degrees, no? So ang pangitaon natin again, no, is the resultant, no? So we'll look for the resultant, no? I'll call the resultant vector, guys, no, as, let me call it as VR, no? VR gyapon, no? So how much is the resultant vector? And we already know how to use our graphical approach here, no? Kabalo na tayo mag-usasang graphical, pero hindi tayo mag-usasang graphical yan, subong, no? What we will use is the, we are going to use our component method. So we are now dealing with this one now using the component method, no? So first of all, we are going to get, no, the components AX, no? We are going to get the component BX, and we're going to get the component CX for each of these each of these vectors. No? So, since ang iya angle, guys, gindiretso, ginatag, na wala yan naging butang ang north of east, no? South of west. No? So, our formula now basically, again, it's equals to the vector times the cosine of its angle. No? Diretso lang naman na, oh. Next, 20 cosine of 120 degrees, no? Diretso na. And our value, no? It's 10 cosine of 225 degrees. No? I think you'll need to help me here, no? So I need values here. Some of these values will be positive, some of them will be negative, no? But I'm going to need values here, no? So for our first value, I guess that's a positive value. Positive what?
25.98, sir.
Again.
25.98.
That's positive, no? Our next value is, I guess this one is negative now, no?
Negative 10, sir. Negative 10, sir.
Pila?
Negative 10.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Then next value is,
Negative.
I think this is also negative, correct?
Negative 7.07.
Negative 7.
Yes, sir.
7.07, sir.
Okay. So after that, guys, no, I'll need a total value, no? I need to add this up, no? What is the sum? And I will call it now as vector x, no? Amo ni ang component sa aton nga vector v, no? So ano ang aton vector x? Vx, no? Pila nang ila total tanan?
8.91.
8.91,
what?
sir.
Positive.
Positive, sir.
8.91.
8.91.
Again, kiti 25 na ako kag 17, pila bilin?
8.91.
8.91.
91 naman eh.
91.
Okay, so that's our horizontal, no? So ano yung tawag natin nga horizontal Okay, then what's the other component gani? If you have the horizontal, the other component is we have the and what's the symbol for our vertical component, no? Our vertical component is called as Vy, no? And what are the values of our Vy, no? So first of all, that will be AY, BY, no? And C sub Y. And can you please help me, no? What are the values of our AY? AY is 30 sine of what? Sine of 30 degrees. Then this one is 20, no? Sine of 120 degrees. And third is 10 sine of 225 degrees, no? And each of our values are equivalent to what? I think this is 15, no?
15, sir.
So I will write positive or negative, ha, para balaan yung importante ng positive or negative. So I think that's positive. This one is also positive, tama?
O, sir.
5.32, sir.
17.32.
Positive again,
17.32.
0.32. Then the last
Yes,
value is what? Negative. I think that's
Negative.
negative what?
7.07, sir.
7.
Negative 7.07.
Negative 7.07. And what's our next thing to find ganiya? Your By, no? Amo na nakaroon ng sum nila.